It's the last show of February. Yeah. So March Madness baseball season. We're about to enter a wonderful time of the year in sports. And with that said, it's always a wonderful time here on Chris and Company. And today we got a little special treat. Kenny Serwa. If you don't know that name, you may know the story. About a month ago, maybe a little bit more, this guy went viral for a bullpen session that he had in which he started mixing in some knuckleballs as well. He'd been pitching an independent ball, 27 years old, was really a no-name, but started to pick up a lot of steam after this remarkable bullpen session, showed off some ridiculous stuff, and especially what they call the Yoshi knuckleball, which I am going to ask him quite a bit about. And then he ended up signing with the Detroit Tigers organization. So I'm going to talk to him about what his future looks like potentially with the Tigers, how this all came about. It's a pretty remarkable rags to riches story. I mean, the kind of stuff that you root for in sports, especially in baseball. So really looking forward to talking to him. He was very enthusiastic about coming on. We've been trying to work this out for a minute. So looking forward to our discussion there. Before we get to that, though, just a few programming notes. If you like the show, you can find us on Apple Podcasts. You can find us on Spotify. Obviously, we're on YouTube. We got to get the YouTube numbers up. I don't mean to plead. But we need to do better on that platform, just straight up, and I'll own up to that. We're trying very hard, and we do fine in audio form. And I get it. These things are long, but goddamn, whatever. Just find us there. Much appreciated. We always appreciate the support. CastellaniContent.com is where you can go to find all of the content that we create, from podcasts to movie reviews to post-game videos. We've been doing very well with the Michigan post-game basketball videos lately after that thrilling game against Nebraska the other night. It's the worst sporting event I ever watched. We're continuing to stay consistent and pump things out, and obviously our best time of the year, which is baseball season, is right around the corner. And for people that want to follow me on Twitter at Castellani 2014 or on TikTok at Chris Castellani, we are going to be putting out a few more baseball related things over the next several weeks, previewing the Tigers, previewing the baseball in general, major leagues in general, making a few predictions, talking about certain players, what I think they're going to look like. And we are discussing all of that on All Say This as well. We do a Tiger segment, when it's pertinent, when it's relevant. So we're trying to cover, no pun intended here, trying to cover as many bases as possible as we continue to churn out content. We will have more stuff coming around the corner, whether it's First Watch and hopefully Michigan and Michigan State can go on a little run here in March and gives us something to talk about. And my goal in the coming months is to do more vlogs as well, more stuff outside of the house, which, I know foreign concept for me, but hopefully we can get there. So yeah, I think that's all it for the programming notes right now. Let's just go ahead and jump to our interview with Detroit Tigers pitcher Kenny Serwa. A pitcher within the Tigers organization joins us today. Viral sensation, recently signed at 27 years old by the Detroit Tigers. Went viral for, I said that bullpen session he had, but obviously mainly the Yoshi pitch, which we will discuss several times throughout this interview. But Kenny Serwa joins the program. Kenny, how we doing, man? Been obviously kind of a crazy time, I would imagine.
Yes, oh my gosh, very crazy, but very exciting, and just very happy for the opportunity and excited to be on. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, of course. Where are you at right now? Like, just out of curiosity.
I'm in the dorms, the spring training dorms that they have here for us on the facility. You would say.
Awesome. Okay. All right. Right on. So yeah, that was going to be one of my questions, but I want to start back just because, kind of get to know your story a little bit, because it's kind of remarkable how this all came about. You went to a few different schools, attended UCF, you went to Dayton. Grew up or from Illinois. Did you, just out of curiosity, did you grow up a Cubs fan?
I did. I grew up a Cubs fan. I wasn't a hater of the Sox. I just wanted them to lose when they played the Cubs, because I've always wanted to see a Cubs White Sox World Series as a Chicago kid.
Where were you when they won the World Series in 2016?
I was at St. Joseph's College in Rensselaer, Indiana.
Right on. Yeah. Memorable night?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Very memorable. Very.
Stressful night, but memorable night. Yeah, so I
Yep.
was looking at the Tread Athletics page, which is obviously this is where you were kind of making your bones there as a pitcher, working on your stuff, and that's where the clip of you, kind of showing off your stuff went viral. But you know, after I saw the clip of you throwing the ball and pitching, and then it was, I mean, really almost hours later, I felt like I saw the announcement that you had been signed by the Tigers organization. How quickly did this all come about for you?
Pretty quickly. There was a few days after of nothing. Just me talking with my agent and my tread coaches and stuff like that. But after a few days, things kind of took off pretty quick. Phone call after phone call, and another team interested, and just thinking back now, it was a lot, a very very stressful week, and just a lot of phone calls, a lot of people getting their opinions on things and discussing things with family and stuff like that.
Did you have an idea for a minute that the Tigers were interested, or did it kind of come out of left field?
Um, I wouldn't say it came out of left field. They were definitely interested, and I was definitely interested in them. But they weren't. I wouldn't say the first team to reach out, but one of the first few.
Did you go into that? Because I've always been curious about this. Did you go into that session knowing that there was a possibility that you were going to come away from it signed by a major league club?
Of course. That was the goal. That was the mindset. I knew that it was a big day, a big stage, and I can still remember the feeling. It was surreal being in that environment and everything like that at Tread. Thank you very much, Tread Athletics, for hosting that event and everything. But yes, I definitely had some idea of what I wanted to do and how I was going to do it going into that pro day, and I think it went pretty well. It was a successful day, of course, and yeah, I definitely was looking at more to come from that day.
At what point, kind of during your developmental process as a pitcher, because I know that you'd been in independent ball for a while, but the pro day itself, was there a point where you felt comfortable kind of showcasing your stuff at that point? Was there a turning point for you where you felt like the opportunity was going to be there for you to potentially get an opportunity at Pro Bowl?
Do you mean during the pro day itself,
No,
or just
beforehand, like just building up to it. Did you feel like, I guess I don't know. I should reframe the question a little bit better. But I guess how did the pro day itself? How did you know that you were ready to showcase your stuff? I guess more so, I was saying.
years and years and years of preparation? I
Yeah.
mean, everything had come to that moment. They always say being at the right spot, the right place, the right time. Well, I happened to be there at that day, and yeah, just years and years of preparation and being consistent, knowing my routine that I've done countless amount of times before starts, making sure that I stay with it the day of, and just don't overthink it. It is a big day. There are a lot of people there watching and everything like that, but just I was telling myself, just be Kenny and just show them what you got.
What's the biggest thing you've learned from Tread?
The biggest thing I've learned from Shred, we have been working a lot on just firing the hips in the proper timing of my sequence, of my delivery, as well as different pitch grips, trying to manipulate the baseball a little bit differently with fastball, sinker, and cutter, creating the three-headed fastball.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard really good things about it. Obviously, guys go there in the off season. They've been working on their stuff for a long time. Just wondering, because you hear all these kind of incredible stories about what the sacrifices guys make, in during the off season. When you weren't doing stuff in minor leagues or in independent ball, what were you doing to kind of make money on the side?
I was doing some lessons with anywhere from 8-year-olds to some college guys around my house, my neighborhood, some people that I know, and just people that I've linked up with through the years, and through so and so knows someone, and he heard about me, as well as I was on an app called InstaCoach, I believe it was called, and I was getting some lessons on there. Just made a profile and put myself out there, and got some bites to do some lessons, but definitely needed to make a little bit of money, not making too much in independent baseball.
Is coaching something you want to do beyond, like, after you're done with your playing days as well?
Definitely, definitely. I've had a lot of different kids throughout the years tell me like, "Man, you know what you're talking about. You could coach a little bit or whatever." And I'm just like, down the road, once my career's over with and everything like that, yeah, definitely want to try that out, see what it's like.
For sure. Well, you still got a lot of time left in your playing days, and this. So that the news breaks, signed with the team, and there's been a few instances in the Tigers organization over the last several years of this happening. I remember in the WBC, I think 2 years ago. God, I want to say from Cuba, I could be wrong. Like came in, had struck out the side, struck out 3 All-Stars, I think maybe for the Dominican team or Venezuelan team, and then got signed the next day by Detroit. They've kind of turned this thing into a pitching factory, but the news breaks that you've been signed to a minor league contract. Who's the first person that you contact after the news gets broken to you?
After the news was broken to me, it was definitely my parents. My
Mm-hmm.
parents have been with me from before I can even remember, taking me to baseball games and just every sporting event possible, trying to keep me in as best shape as I could be, and driving from one tournament to another, basketball to baseball and everything like that. So definitely called them, and I definitely remember my mom crying. She was definitely happy for me, happy tears and everything like that. And my dad, of course, was yelling, um, like, let's go. Finally, got
Mm-hmm.
the chance we've been working for. And yeah, it was a great phone call.
Yeah, it sounds like it, man. I mean, and I know that there's still a lot to sort out, but have you made like a first, I'm not going to say splurge necessarily, but did you make a first, like, okay, yeah, this is a first comfortable purchase, so to speak, after you sign that deal?
Nothing specifically.
Oh,
Nothing specifically. Nothing where I've been like, ooh, I've really wanted that. Like, let me go buy that. I've just kind of been saving it. But if there's something that crosses
yeah.
my mind, I'm sure that I'll pull the trigger now.
For sure. Yeah. And it's kind of transitioning here to, obviously you're rocking the Tigers shirt right now. Spring training has started, and there's been a whole lot of change. And, I say this as a fan, as somebody who's been, watching the team forever, a whole lot of change within the organization in regards to kind of how we go about situations like this. Like the idea of the Tigers even attending like a pro day like yours 5 years ago just wouldn't have been a thing. They just didn't. It was one of those weird things where they didn't pay a whole lot of attention to kind of the outskirts there, trying to find those diamonds in the rough. How much knowledge on your end did you have of the Tigers organization before all of this happened?
Um, I wouldn't say a ton, but I definitely got quite a bit of information from one of the teammates I had this past year on the Chicago Dogs. He definitely was helping me out a little bit. He played with the Tigers for a few years and just gave me some information. He was definitely a phone call that I made throughout the process and everything like that. Um, but other than being they're from Detroit, I'm in Chicago. Other than that, not too much.
Not a whole lot. Yeah, it's been, and honestly, it's one of those weird things where, I mean, we're almost 3 years into a new regime here, so even stuff from not that long ago is kind of like a thing of the past with a lot of in terms of how they go about developing players and the pitching factory. I mean, I'll put in a good word for them and just say, like, the amount of pitching careers that have either gotten like fixed or revived in the last several years is pretty staggering. Like, I wouldn't say this to you. Like, I know I'm a fan, but I wouldn't say this to you if I didn't mean it. You're in a good place. Like
Oh,
the
I can
pitching,
I can feel it.
yeah, the pitching factory here has been really remarkable, man. I mean, it's funny because we highlight obviously Scooble because the guy won the Triple Crown, won the Cy Young. Got the photo behind me here, but like whether it's the bullpen or just the pitching chaos that they instituted last year for their playoff run, like I've had the Tigers have made a move like this several years ago. I don't know if people would have reacted to it the same way, but the fact that I feel there's people in place that really know what they're doing now. It's an exciting time. Have you had, since you signed, any interaction with any of the higher ups or big names in the organization?
Not quite yet, not quite yet. Just the minor league side of everything. Nobody on the major league side yet, but we'll get there. We'll get
Is
there.
is there anyone in particular you're excited to talk to or meet?
I did see Tariq. He was doing a photo shoot the other day. Gave him a what's up, a head nod, and he, gave me a wave back. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool right
Yeah.
there. And then the other day I was walking to the calf, and Javi Baez, as a Chicago Cubs fan,
That's
he
right.
walked out of the cage, and I was kind of like, whoa. I was like, what's up, Javi? And he said like, hello, Poppy, or something like that. And I was like, that is awesome. Like, that was a surreal moment that I'll never forget as well.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a
just
good point.
being around people here, walking through the spring training facility, you never know who you're going to see.
For sure. Well, and where were you? Obviously, you're in the spring training facility now, but where were you traveling from before you arrived there?
Um, Previously in Florida, I was in Chicago
Oh,
before.
okay. I wasn't sure if you were still located in Chicago, if you were living
Yeah.
somewhere else.
Hmm.
Okay, not bad, not bad. I want to talk about the knuckleball situation now, the Yoshi pitch, just because like I'm we've had the pitching ninja on in the past. I'm a pitching guy. I love a 1-0 baseball game. So and I love I'm the guy who breaks down spin rate and shit like that. So we're I love to kind of get in the weeds about this stuff, but. I guess just to kind of explain for the people that don't know, one of the big appeals of your pro day was that you were throwing actually two different knuckleballs, but the big one, obviously, that people were talking about was kind of this Yoshi pitch, which had just kind of a different movement on it that people were describing. And at what point in your career did you decide to incorporate a knuckleball?
Honestly, I've been throwing the knuckleball in my arsenal since I was 9, 10 years old. It was when I
Oh, okay.
first started throwing it. I threw it out in front of my house, and my dad. I was trying to throw breaking balls, and my dad was like, you're not old enough for breaking balls yet. You could try this knuckleball, and I was messing around with some grips and whatnot, and I ended up throwing one that hit him in the chest, and he was like, "That's the grip. That's the grip. Whatever you did right there." And then I ended up going into a game, and I asked my coach. I said, "Can I throw this knuckleball?" I started throwing, and he was like, "Oh, let me see it." And the first one I threw hit the catcher in the face, and he was like, "Yes, you can throw that pitch." And then from there on, I've been throwing it ever since. But it definitely has gotten better over the years. Just throwing it more and messing around with it a little bit, finger placement and everything like that on the ball. Just trying to get it to dance and do its thing.
Have you always had like an admiration for knuckleballers growing up, or was it just a pitch that you had in your arsenal?
Um, I would say I had some admiration for the knuckleballers. I wouldn't say that I was, always watching them and stuff like that,
Mhm.
but definitely look for some tips and help along the way there. Um, but yeah, I just kind of mine's a little bit different, it's a little bit more unique. I throw it with 4 fingers. A lot of guys throw it with two. Um, and then of course I have the hard and the slow ones. So just you know figuring it out.
Have you had difficulty because they're at the major league level that we've seen this in the past? Have you had difficulty finding catchers who feel comfortable being behind the dish for that pitch? Because a lot of catchers do struggle with that.
They're definitely. I've gone through a couple here so far. We've been trying to find some that are
Mhm.
better than others, or can be a little bit more comfortable back there. And I would say I've found there's probably 2 or 3 of them here so far that have been able to handle it really, really well. One that I like a lot. That if I got the choice, I would work with him. But um, they're really good catchers. Honestly, they have a lot of good catchers up and down the chain here. So I haven't had very many complaints of anyone who hasn't been able to handle it very much in the past. I've definitely had some trouble with some guys not being able to handle it as much as some other guys. But after a while, the good catchers they figure it out.
Yeah, for sure. And it's one of those things. Once if it's a good weapon to have if you have a guy back there who's comfortable catching knuckleballs. The
Oh,
Tigers over the last few years, I mean, right now they got Jake Rogers, one of the best defensive catchers in the sport. But I've seen, especially because knuckleballers are not as, I mean, they're not as common as they used to be. Like I think guys just are so not used to catching that pitch at this point. And the one that kind of caught people's eye was the Yoshi knuckleball. Awesome name. Like I think that's kind of where it starts. Like right now, like Kodai Senga, it's got the ghost fork. Sweepers have taken over. Who came up with the name Yoshi?
it was actually my roommate at SIUE, Cole Milam. We were playing catch one day out in front, actually during COVID times, and he saw one, it kind of swirled back and forth like in a circle and
Mhm.
ended up hitting him right in the shin. And he was like, "Dude, that one looks just like the Yoshi pitch from Mario Baseball." And I was like, "Really?" And we went back inside and played it. And I was like, "Yes, that is kind of exactly what my knuckleball looks like." So from there on, we kind of said that the slower one we called Yoshi. It was kind of an inside thing. No one really knew about it. Now everyone knows about it. So that's pretty cool.
You talk about how you throw two different knuckleballs. Is that a recent thing, or is that have you always had kind of the slower one and the harder one that you've thrown, or is that something that developed a little bit later in your career?
That is definitely something that developed later in my career. Just a couple coaches earlier had mentioned trying to mix it up different speeds and stuff like that, but my tread coach Cody at yeah, my coach at Shred, he was the one who was like, let's see how hard you can throw it. Let's see what it does when you throw it as hard as you can. And that's kind of, he was the one who got me to throw it even harder than I did in game before. In game before, I probably threw it 85, 86. But now I've gotten it up to like 88. So, that was definitely because of him.
With we live in this age now where like really whether you're a reliever or a starter, like having strikeout stuff is as important as it's ever been. But I feel like with what you bring, a lot of that stuff to a certain extent it gets thrown out the window because like I said earlier, like a lot of knuckleballers just don't really exist anymore. Is your mindset as a pitcher that of somebody who wants to strike guys out? Like, do you go into an at bat hoping that you're going to miss bats, or is it trying to induce weak contact, just get as many outs as you can?
I don't want to say that I try to let them hit it, but I definitely don't mind them swinging at the knuckleball.
Yeah.
I will say that I'd much rather have them swing at that than other pitches. The knuckleball tends to create weak contact and everything like that. And I've always been a pitch to contact hitter. I mean, pitch to contact pitcher. But I definitely over the years have developed more strikeout stuff with my curveball and elevating the fastball, stuff like that. And the knuckleball, of course, if the wind's blowing and it's on that day, it's going to be a strikeout pitch as well. So, back and forth, definitely a little bit of both. But I don't mind going further into games. So if they want to keep my pitch count down and get me some quick outs, I will take them.
Is your goal, and maybe you've had these discussions with the organization, but do you want to be a starter at the big league level, are they starting you off in the bullpen?
I would like to be a starter. Yes, we haven't I haven't heard anything for sure yet, but as far as I know right now, starter has been the discussion.
Awesome. Do you think, because and this is kind of a maybe a difficult question to answer because it's very broad, but do you think that one of the reasons why knuckleballers have maybe kind of like gone to the wayside at the big league level is the fact that it's more of a pitch to contact pitch, and we live in this age of high spin rates, a lot of swing and miss, a lot of velo. I think maybe that's why we just don't see it as much anymore.
That could definitely be part of it. I definitely have thought that in the past as well. Everyone wants to throw 100, throw 100, throw
Mhm.
100. Well, you got to have something different. Everyone can't just be throwing the same thing. So I think that I got a little bit of a difference maker in me. So I definitely think that plays a factor, as well as I think that for me, it's more so on the difficulty of throwing the pitch. I think that a lot of people
Yeah.
would throw it, or I think that if people could, I'm sure a lot of organizations out there would take more knuckleballers if they were out there. I think that the difficulty of throwing the pitch, as well as having the right size hand. There's a lot of guys out there that have those high spin rates and stuff like that with the bigger hands. It would be very hard to throw a knuckleball with a golf ball if I had to do that. So with me having the right size hands and everything like that, I think that plays a factor. And then of course being able to throw it for a strike, making it dance consistently and throwing it for a strike all come into play. But yeah, what you said is definitely true as well.
For sure. And I'm always interested in this part of it. And obviously with you working with Tread, it makes me think that you're very kind of open to a lot of different ideas and adding in pitches to your arsenal, changing things. But as a pitcher, like, have you ever gotten to a point where you're almost overwhelmed by the amount of data that you're given? Do you like diving into kind of the analytics of pitching, or do you prefer a more simplified approach?
Well, it's interesting. In the past, I haven't really had access to a lot of TrackMan and everything like that.
Mhm.
I just got with Tread probably 5, 6 months ago maybe, and then now being with Detroit, every time I throw a bullpen, I'm on high speed cameras and TrackMan. So
Right.
for me right now, I'm loving it. I'm the more of it, I'll take as much as I can get, absorbing it all and learning every day. The amount of stuff I've learned here is unbelievable, and my stuff that I was working on with Tread has gotten even better since I've been here and been able to work with a lot of the brains here. Know what they're doing. So. Um, yeah, I'm all for it. I definitely think that there could be a time when, looking at it too much can be overwhelming. There's a lot of different numbers that come on TrackMan that I don't even fully understand quite
Yeah.
yet. Um, but the main ones, spin rate and vertical break, horizontal break, stuff like that. I'm all into that.
Yeah, it's a funny thing with certain pitchers where, I mean, some guys' stuff is just so naturally good that like they don't really feel a need to break down all of that stuff. But to me, and I think the organization in Detroit's done a wonderful job of this, like people like scoff or like analytics is like a buzzword, but all this is just advanced numbers, like advanced data. Like, why wouldn't you want more access to your stuff and your spin rate? And there's been a lot of stories that have come out over the last few years. Jason Foley, who's obviously he was closing games for the Tigers a year ago, like he throws his sinker like 80 something percent of the time, and he gets a ton of ground balls with it. Didn't throw it like relatively deep into his minor league career until we had him on the show and he talked about it until it wasn't tread, but it was something like tread. It was a scout who, showed him video of his sinkers. Like, you got to keep throwing this pitch. Like, your four seam fastball isn't very effective. So they've done a good job of kind of tinkering with things. Did you have any pitch growing up? Did you have any favorite pitchers or pitchers you tried to model your game off of, or guys you enjoyed watching?
I definitely would say Kyle Hendricks as a Cubs fan. He was,
nice professor.
I've never been a guy who throws 100 miles an hour. I've definitely gained velo over the years, but years ago I was 88, 90. So he was definitely somebody I looked up to. And then I think that on the mentality side of things, I looked at Max Scherzer. I love the way, he was kind of crazy out there, but at the same time, he got the job done, and he knows what he's doing. He has his way of doing it, and he's really, really good at what he does. So I would say those are probably two of the main ones that I looked up to.
I really like the Hendricks answer because I feel like I like asking these questions to people. I think that's the first time I've gotten Hendricks, because for the longest time he was the most underrated pitcher in baseball by a wide margin. Just because you're right, it was sinkers, it was curveballs, it was changeups, it was nothing.
It wasn't overpowering.
No, not at all. But I mean, he won an ERA title. You guys won the World Series, and one of my favorite games I think ever pitched was the game he pitched where you guys clinched the pennant against the Dodgers, where he was it was sinkers all night. It was weak contact all night. He was topping out at like maybe 89, maybe at that point in his career.
That was an impressive game to watch.
It was awesome. Yeah.
The sinkers and changeups were just that he had the hitters off balance with, it's just, it seems such simple stuff, but he's so good at what he does.
Yeah, no, I mean, he just had guys completely off balance that entire season. And Max, obviously, yeah, I mean, speaks for itself. We got a chance to see him win a Cy Young here when he was in Detroit. Saw him have the 20 strikeout game against the Tigers back in 2016. I mean, that you bring up the mentality, and he was always one of the most fun pitchers to watch. Just the way that he was able to turn it on and off when he was like off the field versus on it, like the last guy you wanted to even look in the eye when he's pitching, but you wanted him on the mound. So yeah, those are two great choices. Do you have any clue about what your first like assignment is going to be after spring training is wrapped up? Have you had any kind of preliminary discussions about that?
I don't believe anything is set in stone yet. I think Double A is kind of where they told me they would send me off to, but as we know, anything can happen, and you got to earn a spot here in spring training. So we'll see where we end up.
Do you know, I mean, it's down the road, I guess, but do you know when you're going to be pitching again? Just
I mean, I know I have a live outing here on Thursday, just inter squad, against some of my teammates, and then after that, I'm not sure. Okay. I know that as far as the schedule posted, I have my list of days, but nothing in game yet.
Cool. Obviously, you growing up a Cubs fan and grew up during, I mean, like the golden age of Cubs baseball, like the Theo Epstein years. Like I don't, which like I always joke about it being a white whale guest for the show, but like Theo Epstein, just as a baseball mind, is like my idol. So I followed those teams very, very closely. Did you have a favorite? I mean, you brought up Hendricks a minute ago. Did you have a favorite Cub that you enjoyed watching during that kind of run, or even before that? I mean, at any point.
I definitely was on Hendricks for a while. I think once Rizzo got there, he was definitely another guy that I was like, ooh, I can get behind this guy. He kind of rallied the troops, brought everyone together, and was a great leader. So I think he was another person I looked up to. I think that might be pretty much it. There's definitely some other guys that I looked at and took some advice from, just hearing them talk and stuff like that. But as far as looking up to those, I would say those are the main ones.
Yeah, there was a lot. I mean, there's so many great pieces of that era. One that's
So
just
many.
always stands out to me, just because of how bizarre his career arc was what Jake Arrieta. Just because he had literally a calendar year where he was the best pitcher ever, and that's not an exaggeration. Like he had like a 1.09 ERA with two no
I'm
hitters.
glad he was on our team.
I know, right? And I mean, that's one of the all-time trade fleeces. That was like Scott Feldman for like Pedro Strop and Jake Arrieta, and Arrieta goes on to win a Cy Young, and Strop was like one of your best relievers for a long time. Yeah, no, he was so dominant for that short window. Where it's like every time he picked up the ball, you're like, dude, he's probably going to go 8 or 9. Like that's how good he was
Yeah,
for that period of time, and pretty good in the postseason too. But for that window, man, he was absolutely, he
like
was
that.
absolutely must watch. Uh, yeah, look, man. I mean, this is it's an incredible story, and I mean, credit to you for the persistence and everything. I mean, was there? I mean, I don't know. You always, I always ask or think about these questions, but has there been times, or was there a specific time that you can think of where you thought about maybe moving on from baseball?
No,
Wow.
I've always known that I have something special. I've always just been, like I said, trying to find the right place at the right time, and get my chance. I'm biased, I've had this knuckleball my whole life. I think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. So, uh, I'm all in. I'm all in.
Yeah, but that's the way to go, though, man. I mean, it's self belief. Like I think that we often equate believing in oneself as arrogance. It's like no, like your stuff's good. Like I when we talk to Scuba or any of these guys in the organization, it's like the first thing that AJ or any of these people try to instill in them is like you're here for a reason. Like you wouldn't have gotten the contract you gotten, and these guys wouldn't be at the major league level if they didn't offer something. So no, I think that's great, and I think that is um I mean, it's a lot of pressure to put on, but there is something. I feel like there is a wave of like knuckleball revolution potentially around the corner, not just with you, but like you're kind of seeing like whispers of it, just because I think we are so in this spin rate velo world that I think there's kind of this push
I
for some
agree.
sort of there's this push for some sort of throwback now where it's like let's maybe push it back to that era where we can kind of keep guys off their toes a little bit, especially in this age where like it's the true outcomes, it's strikeouts, it's walks, it's home runs. I think just kind of having that magic elixir, it could really be a lot of fun. I could easily see the fans around here embracing it because man, we haven't. I mean, I can't remember the last. There was always this rumor, and he would always joke about it that Verlander said he had a knuckleball, and whenever people asked him about his arsenal, he's like, "I got it." Um, Never threw it, never needed to. I mean, when you can
Hmm.
hit 102
Yeah,
in the eighth inning, I guess you
yeah,
probably you
you
probably
do
don't
that.
have to. But yeah, we haven't had one in here in a really long time. So yeah, man. I mean, look, it's obviously probably been a real whirlwind for you, but congratulations. Like I said at the beginning, it's really an incredible story.
Thank you
And
very much. I've
yeah,
always
and
said that I feel like I'm the next generation of knuckleballer.
hey, man,
I've
dude,
been
let's
waiting to see another one come around. I know Waldron's out there, so I think they are starting to come around. And I do agree that everyone's stuck on the spin rate. Well, it's time to find something a little bit different, and I think we got it here.
do you take a lot of pride in that of potentially being like the I don't want to say face, but like one of the faces of potentially a new era of pitching in baseball.
I do. I do. I love the idea of it. I think the baseball world needs another knuckleballer. I think that the fans would love it. I think it would bring a lot of publicity and fans to watch and everything like that. And I just know that every time I play catch, even here or anywhere, even my first live I had the other day, just the joy I see, like smiles on people's faces, like when I'm throwing them and they're moving crazy and getting some crazy swings. Everyone's just so happy, and I just love it. Just it brings such a different vibe to the game. So, yes, I'm all for it, and I hope it becomes something big.
Going back actually, because I'm meaning to ask this earlier in the interview, but you played for the Chicago Dogs for a while, which is a independent club in Chicago. Obviously, know somebody that actually worked a broadcaster that worked with it for that organization for a while. Was there any former big league players that you went up against when you were in that league?
Um, there were a few. Let me see if I can remember some names. There was on the Cleburne Railroaders. The shortstop was, gosh, I can't remember names. There was a shortstop on the Cleveland Railroaders, I believe, was a big leaguer for a little bit, and then on the Fargo Moorhead Redhawks, I believe he just retired this year. Again, don't remember his name. He was a very tough out, though. I remember because I don't walk people very much, and
Mhm.
I ended up walking him once or twice in that game, 3-2 counts, like eight or nine pitch at bats. And I remember him being a very tough out. And I talked to some of my buddies after the game. They're like, "Oh yeah, he used to be a big leaguer." So I was like, "Oh, kind of makes sense." You can see the different approach at the plate.
Mhm.
Not biting at junk. And I think when he did hit the ball, he had made great contact, squared it up at someone. So luckily he was an out. But yeah, those are definitely two of them. I'm
When
sure
you're
that there was a few more in there, but those are just two that I can remember off the top of my head.
I asked you about like the data that goes into pitching and everything and kind of the importance of it and the attention that you pay to it. But when you go into a game, I guess how much prep is similar? It's kind of similar to the question I asked earlier, but how much prep do you have in regards to the lineup itself that you're going against? Is it something that do you do a lot of homework about the lineup that you're facing, or do you view it more so as like if you just trust your stuff, you'll be able to get out?
A little, a little bit of both. A little bit of both. I definitely trust my stuff enough to, I mean, I didn't get a scouting report against my teammates here, and they're
Yeah.
just as good as some of the other guys out there. So, um, I definitely, trust my stuff. But when it comes down to it, yes, there's a lot of information that they give us as far as like who swings at the first pitch, who's chasing certain types of pitches, in what counts. Um, I like to look at like the swing path, whether they're more up and down, whether they're more flat, see if we're going to be able to elevate or if we're going to have to go in and out on them. Um, and again, if someone doesn't swing at the first pitch like 98% of the time, then they're just going to get a BP heater right down the middle.
Mhm.
And I'm going to get a head 0-1. And
Yeah.
that's even better for me. So there's definitely a lot of things to look at on ways to steal strikes and figure out little, you know, just cues and ways to beat the other team. Find their weaknesses and attack them.
You talk about stealing strikes, and that actually, this has been a hot thing in baseball in spring training over the last week. What are your thoughts on the ABS system, this challenge system? Are you for it?
I've had a lot of and what I believe knuckleballs that I've thrown for strikes that have been called balls.
Yeah, I can.
So
That's a good point. Yeah.
I'm kind of I've never been on it, but I'm very curious. I think that there's a lot of times that umpires get fooled by it,
Hmm.
and the ABS system would be there to save me. But on the other hand, there are also times when it fools the umpire in my favor. So
Hmm.
um, 50-50. I definitely think I don't know. I don't know if I'm more for it or against it right now. I haven't used it. I'd have to have some experience with it, but it's definitely something that interests me as far as just with the sporadic movement of the Yoshi and everything.
For sure. Yeah, I guess I didn't really think about it in terms of knuckleballs. I mean, that creates an entirely new dynamic. I mean, it'll be one of those things, like a lot of things in sports. We'll be for it when it helps us, and we'll be against it when it hurts us, and that's just kind of
Yes, of course.
the natural the natural way of things. But it's I guess the thing I've noticed is just like I don't think that it is necessarily in its spring training. I mean, who knows? But that it's hurting the flow of the game the way that some people predicted. Like they keep it moving at a good pace, and the pace of play has already improved a ton with stuff like pitch clock. So yeah, no, it's unique. I don't think we're gonna get it at the major league level this year, but you got to think it's coming. Um, at some point here in the future, hopefully right around the time you're starting to make your debut at Comerica Park. But man, look, we've had a lot of Tigers on this show and a lot of different Detroit sports personalities. Your story is definitely as unique as anybody's. The Tigers, you brought up how fans are kind of reacting to it, but Tigers social media was very excited about this. It was something that we love in Detroit, especially those underdog stories, those diamond in the rough stories. Feels like you've got that, and obviously with the knuckleball revolution, there's just another element to it. So, congratulations! Obviously, I appreciate you doing the show today, and really looking forward to see how things grow, and you continue to move your way up the ranks. Hopefully, we can get you back on again at some point.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me on. Thank you to the Detroit Tigers for the opportunity, and I look forward to putting in the work and hopefully making my debut sometime soon. So I'm very excited, and thank you again for everything.
Of course. Thank you, Kenny. What a great story, man. What a story, Mark. And I think ultimately, as time goes on, we're going to get more stories like this that come from the Tigers organizations. Maybe not something that's this crazy where a guy goes viral and then gets signed. But I think that one thing that we've learned over the last few years here is that we've seen several guys who were probably afterthoughts in the Al Avila era who maybe haven't become stars, but have become pieces in the Scott Harris era, like who really had thought about Wencel Perez before last year, and it seemed like Parker has started to turn things around, and Colt Keith ended up earning a contract before he even played in the major leagues. I'm sorry. Wow, I burped. My apologies. How very unladylike of, oh, there we are again. How very unladylike of me. Anyway, and I think that this is an organization, especially with their pitching, that is in a very good place in regards to how they develop talent and the way that they see their pitchers and what they can get from these guys. So hope he makes it to the bigs. Hope he starts pitching some legitimate ball and becomes the guy almost single-handedly responsible for bringing knuckleballers back, or at least maybe, I don't know, that Yoshi pitch. Maybe that's going to be the one that's going to be the new sweeper that people are going to do. You got the sweeper, the ghost fork, and the Yoshi, the three pitches that are going to be taking over Major League Baseball here in the future. Nice guy, obviously a great story, easy guy to root for. All these guys in the organization have been good guys to root for. I mean, that's not a problem here. I would say it probably never has been a problem with these younger players, but I think that Scott Harris being a disciple of Theo Epstein, Theo Epstein always talked about the mental makeup of players, and that's something that you can't really put in a stat sheet or in a scouting report, and that stuff does matter. Being able to fit into a clubhouse, that is part of the journey. So looking forward to seeing his progression here as a pitcher, and he is now officially a friend of the program, which is important to me. I don't know if it's important to anybody else. That will do it for today's show. Like I said, Castellani 2014 on Twitter. You can find all of our content at castellanicontent.com. There, if you want to find the links to the postgame videos, Lions, Michigan, Tigers, movie reviews, I'll say this, Chris and company, it's all there. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you want to listen in audio format, you can find us on Apple Podcasts. You can find us on Spotify. Train's going to keep rolling here. We're going to continue to try to find guests and, put out stuff that hopefully you guys are receptive to. We're doing the best we can, and not like, who cares? It doesn't, whether we're working hard or not, what matters is the product. And I continue to be proud of the product, and obviously appreciate Austin Sisler behind the camera, who continues to do a remarkable job. So we're going to keep rolling with things. Thank you very much for listening to this show. Shout out to Kenny Serwa. Thanks for joining the program. We'll talk to you guys real soon. Have a great rest of your day. Peace and happiness.
It's an unfair game. We got to think differently.